So on the channel, we have experimented with a ton of different hacks trying to create a mullet drivetrain. That's to say, a drivetrain with a wide range that works with drop bar shifters. I've done everything from swapping out derailleur cages to mixing and matching different component groups that shouldn't work. But today might be the day where we finally have a budget mullet setup, which requires no hacking. It just works right out of the box. And the best part is that it won't bankrupt you. So in today's video, we're gonna do a deep dive on the Microshift Advent X group set. Find out what I like and dislike about it in this video. Welcome back, Pathless Peddlers, and if you're new to the channel, if you're into the non-competitive side of cycling, you have found your people, hit that subscribe button. So Microshift Advent X dropped a couple of weeks ago, and it was a big eye-opener. And the mountain bike group set only costs a very reasonable $167. On top of that, it was also lightweight. While most sites focused on the mountain bike end of things, we actually got a chance to try it out with its 10-speed drifters. That's right, you get an 11 to 48 tooth cassette in 10 speed, and it works natively with road-style shifters. No tan pans or JTEC shiftmates or derailleur hanger extenders necessary. Just out of the box, wide range road shifters, and you don't have to spend thousands of dollars to get it to work. So it sounds awesome on paper. How was it in reality? Installation was pretty straightforward. It works just like any group set. And although the stated capacity is 48 teeth only, I did try it with the Box Prime 9 11 to 59 speed cassette, and it worked. It actually worked really beautifully. The rear derailleur was much easier to shift with Gevenal shifters and bar ends and bar cons. So if you still have your heart set on a wide range 9-speed, I would 100% recommend the new Advent X rear derailleur if you want to run it with the Box 9 system. So one of my favorite things about this group set is the cassette uses a standard Shimano HG free hub body. So if you have a bike with 7, 8, 9, 10, or 11 speeds, chances are the cassette will work on your bike. So this really makes it perfect for retrofits. If you've got an old bike and you want to turn it one by, but don't want to sacrifice a ton of range, this group set is for you. So moving on to the road shifters themselves, they've got a bit of a bulbous head look to them. One thing I found was the reach of the shifter itself was actually fairly short when compared to SRAM and Shimano. So if you find that you're constantly stretched out on other group sets and want to shorten that reach without shortening your stem, then these drifters actually make a good solution. To shift, you've got two paddles, one really long paddle, and that lets you access your lower gears, and you can shift to lower gears about 2 gears at a time. The shorter paddle drops you into the higher, harder gears, and you can only do that 1 gear at a time. I know a lot of you are going to be really curious about the shift quality between these drifters and say SRAM or Shimano, and to me it has a real satisfying utilitarian clunkiness to it. I know that sounds bad, but hear me out. No, it's not as silky smooth or refined as say higher end Shimano, but it works and it gives a kind of charming mechanical feedback when you shift. So for me, unless you are super OCD about requiring a really light shift lever, the Advent X shifter is more than adequate, and it's kind of charming in its own way. So how's it ride on the road? I have to be honest, after my experience with the Box Prime 9 component group set, I was a little concerned that 10 might not be enough, and to pull off a wide range rear cassette, you would really need to go 11 or 12. That said, in practice, actually riding on the road, I was pleasantly surprised. It's amazing how a slight range reduction and one more added gear really minimizes that feeling of big gaps between shifts. I'm not saying it was perfect, but compared to the Box 9, where I was constantly aware of being not in the cadence I wanted, but with the Advent X, yes, there were some gaps, but it wasn't as noticeable as I would think. So between the two, no surprise, I would give it to the Advent X in terms of having a better shifting / cadence experience. It wasn't as granular as an 11 or 12 speed system, but I think pretty good, especially for the money. And during my test rides with it, I didn't have any misshifts. I found that it had great range for the steep gravel roads that we had out here. I shifted a couple times under load and standing and just had no problems with it. So those are the things I liked about the Advent X system. What are the things I didn't like? For me, one big dislike is when shifting in the drops, I found it really tricky to hit that smaller paddle. Shifting from the hoods, it was no problem. I could shift into low gear, into high gear, but once you're in the drops, that smaller paddle is placed fairly high on the lever. So you have to perform some finger yoga to click into a harder gear while in the drops. Probably the biggest dislike, and one that will stick out to a lot of you, is that it uses an externally routed cable for the shifter. That's right, it doesn't go beneath the bar tape. Instead, it shoots out like some old school 9 or 10 speed shifters. So it's a bit of a bummer, but you can't expect heaven on earth for this price point. And I did experiment putting different bags on the bike to see if the cable routing would interfere with the shifting or with a bag. And what I found, even stock, if you run the cable a little bit longer, you can put bigger bags on there, like a Bags by Bird bag or a large rando bag. And I know inevitably one of you would have suggested, why don't you just use a brake noodle? So I tested that also. So here you can see I took an old V-brake noodle, attached it to the shifter, so it rerouted the cable housing so it would go behind an under bag. When you route the cable like this, it will clear any large bag you want, even a big bike packing sausage roll, if that's how you roll. I did notice when I ran the cabling like this, there was a little bit of a loss of crispness in the shifting, although it still shifted fine. Another dislike, and this is purely aesthetics, is the hoods to me are not the most attractive. They're a little bit bulbous. I would have preferred something a little bit more sleek and a little bit more angular. So that's purely an aesthetic thing, but in practice, when you're actually riding it, it's super comfortable. I actually really appreciated the shorter reach of the shifters. And finally, one last dislike is supposedly it uses a different cable pull that's not compatible with other 10-speed shifters. So that's a bit of a bummer. I've not been able to test it with other 10-speed drifters to confirm or deny, but that's what they're saying on the spec sheet. That said, if you don't want to use your drifter, you can of course use things like the Gevinol friction shifter, a Barcon, a Thummy, down tube shifter, whatever you want, because the derailleur spring, while strong enough to keep the chain on the chainring even on rough terrain, isn't so stiff that it won't shift with a friction shifter. So who is this Groupset for? I think if you're on a budget and want a wide range one-by system, this drivetrain is definitely for you. If you're someone that appreciates function over form and don't really care if you're not running Shimano Dura-Ace or SRAM Red, then this drivetrain is also for you. If you don't require super light shifts and would rather save that money and put it towards things like wheels and tires, which make a bigger difference on your bike, then this drivetrain is also for you. And basically anyone that wants to ride gravel, go bike touring, bike packing, or commuting, and wants that big gear range but doesn't want to spend a ton of money, this is just an awesome drivetrain. So do I like it? Yes, 100%. Is it perfect? No, but for the price and what you get, I think there's a lot to forgive about this drivetrain. I'm actually really excited that it's come out because you can have that wide range in the rear and you don't have to hack a rear derailleur to make it happen. You could buy everything complete, the cassette, the rear derailleur, both drifters, for less than what it would cost you to buy one single SRAM access rear derailleur or even drifter. That's just how incredibly affordable this Groupset is. If you guys have any questions about the Groupset, leave those in the comments below. If you want to see our derailleur hacks to get lower gearing, be sure to check out the playlist. And if you like this content, join us on Patreon where you get access to all sorts of cool stuff, discount codes, and you keep this content coming. And as always, guys, keep the supple side down.